We don't just adopt our pets. In a way, they adopt us. They see us in our rawest states. They meet us in our loneliness. And they lift us in our joy, and they sit silently with us in grief. A pet's life, from the moment they enter ours to the moment they leave, compresses the entire human experience into one arc. Love, play, growth, loss, and healing. And somehow, after they're gone, we realize they were teaching us the entire time, teaching us how to love more deeply, teaching us to be more present, teaching us to let go with grace. This isn't just an episode about pets. It's an episode about what it means to be human and why we need these incredible companions on the journey. Are you ready? I am. I'm Jonah. I'm your person. Let's get to it. Welcome to the show. I had the privilege this past week to spend a few days with my favorite little pup, Nalu. Nalu's a Shih Tzu. And when he was here, he followed me everywhere. In the kitchen, I would look down, there he was. In the washroom, I would look down, there he was. I would wake up, and on my chest, there he was, breathing into my face. When I was at my desk, he would stay at my feet. But when there was a noise, or a sound of wind, or at least it seemed like it, he lost his freaking little mind and barked at the top of his lungs. He would scare me, actually. And I could have gotten annoyed, but I imagined that he saw himself as a big Doberman Pinscher or a Rottweiler or German Shepherd or something of the like. No matter, he was protecting me. And the love he gave was completely unconditional. And I felt so lucky. You know, there's this moment you never forget. The first time a pet looks at you. And I mean really looks at you. Even this time I got to watch Nalu, he spent a lot of time looking at my eyes, and I felt like he was just looking at my soul. Sometimes it's in a shelter. And sometimes it's when a friend hands him over. And sometimes it's a stray that just decides, you're mine. And people talk about adoption as if it's a choice we make. But anyone who truly has a pet knows, sometimes it feels like they choose us. And in that instant, something shifts. You're not just responsible for yourself anymore. You're responsible for this living, breathing being who needs you, but who also has something to give you. And for people who have never had pets, let me put it this way. Think of the first time you realized you had to care about someone or something outside of your own survival. Maybe it was a younger sibling. Maybe it was a friend in crisis. Or maybe it was even a houseplant you swore you'd keep alive. That shift from me to we is where the story of every pet really begins. The beauty of that first connection is that it's never about perfection. Pets don't care if your house is spotless, if your career is thriving, or even if you've got it all figured out. They care about your presence. They care about your heart. And often, they show up in our lives at exactly the right time. The moment we need unconditional love the most, even if we don't even realize it. From that point on, your life is tied together. The sound of paws on the floor, the wag of a tail, the soft rhythm of a purr, the quiet comfort of a body curled up next to yours. These are the small things, but they anchor you. They remind you that love doesn't always have to be complicated. Sometimes love just shows up, asks for food, and falls asleep at your feet. But here's the thing. The beginning is also a promise. Because when you let a pet into your life, you're agreeing to a journey that will end one day. You don't think about that in the beginning. You're caught up in the joy, the newness, the wonder, but it's there, quietly woven into the deal. Every wag, every purr, every bark or meow carries with it the truth that one day you'll have to say goodbye. And yet, we still say yes. We still let them in. Because deep down, we know the love will be worth the loss. That's the silent vow we make in that very first moment. That even if it breaks us later, the journey together will be worth it. Whether or not you've ever had a pet, you know this truth. The ones we allow into our lives, who ask for our care and our presence, end up reshaping us. They demand we grow. They demand we soften. And maybe, in their own way, they demand that we become more human. Look, every story with a pet begins with that first connection, whether you chose them or they chose you. And at that moment, simple as it is, opens the door to a different version of yourself. I like to think of pets as our silent teachers, and we're going to talk about that here in part 2. One of the most powerful things about pets is that they don't use words. They don't give lectures, they don't write books, and they don't record podcasts. And yet somehow they teach us some of life's greatest lessons, not with language, but with presence. Think about it. A dog doesn't say, "I forgive you." They just wag their tail when you walk back into the room after losing your temper. A cat doesn't say, "I trust you." They curl up in your lap and fall asleep, handing you their vulnerability without hesitation. A bird doesn't explain what freedom means. They just spread their wings, sing in the morning, and remind you that life itself is a song. For people who've never had a pet, here's the truth behind all of this. It's not just about animals. It's about the way life has these quiet teachers, people, or moments that show us something deep without ever spelling it out. Maybe it was a grandparent who sat silently with you when you were hurting. Maybe it was a stranger's kindness in a moment you'll never forget. And maybe it was a sunset that stopped you in your tracks and wordlessly told you, "Slow down. Breathe. You're alive." That's what pets do every single day. They pull us into the frequency of presence. They remind us that being here, fully, honestly, without distraction, is sometimes the loudest lesson of all. And here's the part we often miss. Pets don't just mirror our joy. They also mirror our pain. They sense when we're anxious, when we're grieving, when our hearts are heavy. And in their own quiet way, they teach us that love doesn't need to fix everything. Sometimes love is just sitting beside you on the couch, saying nothing, and reminding you you're not alone. This world is loud. It tells us we need more money, more success, more proof that we're enough. But then you look down and your pet is just there, breathing, present, content. And you realize maybe we've been overcomplicating this life all along. And here's your first challenge of the week. This week, pay attention to a silent teacher in your life. Maybe it's a pet. Maybe it's a person. Or maybe it's just a quiet moment that speaks louder than words. Then write down what they're teaching you. Here in part 3, we're going to talk about play, joy, and the forgotten frequency. You know, one of the most overlooked gifts pets give us is the invitation to play. Not just casual fun, but the kind of play that pulls us out of our heads and into our bodies, into a moment, into pure joy. It's a frequency many of us have forgotten, a vibration of existence that says, you are alive. Right now, enjoy it. Think of a puppy chasing a ball with reckless abandon, or a cat leaping for a toy that dangles in the air. There's no planning, no overthinking, no worry about what happened yesterday or what might happen tomorrow. There is only this moment, fully lived. And in watching or joining them, we're reminded that life itself is meant to be experienced, not just endured. And for people who have never had a pet, imagine a moment where you lose yourself in laughter or excitement so purely that it feels like your heart has expanded. That's the essence of what pets teach us. Joy is a frequency, and we can choose to tune into it, sometimes with a soft paw, sometimes with a wagging tail, and sometimes with nothing more than a warm nuzzle. Pets also remind us that play is not selfish. In fact, it's essential. In a world that is constantly asking us to be productive, to earn more, to accomplish more, they whisper a truth we rarely allow ourselves to hear. Happiness is not a reward. It is a state of being. And by engaging in playful moments, we recharge, we reconnect, and we recalibrate our energy. And here's the beauty. The lessons of play extend far beyond pets. A dance in the kitchen, a spontaneous call to someone you love, a moment spent watching a sunset without distraction. These are the echoes of the same frequency that pets invite us to inhabit. So here's challenge number 2 for your week. Today, find one way to play, purely for the joy of it. If you have a pet, include them. If not, find your own playful frequency, and then notice how it shifts your energy and perspective. All right, let's talk about the presence code. If joy is a frequency that pets invite us into, then presence is the code they live by. Pets don't worry about the meeting tomorrow or the mistake they made yesterday. They don't rehearse conversations in their head or spiral through what-if scenarios. They live where their paws are. And in doing so, they embody the one thing we crave most but often fail to practice: being here. Watch a dog lying in the sun, or a cat perched on the windowsill watching the world go by. Notice how a pet leans into you when you're home, as if there's nowhere else they'd rather be. It's not because they lack awareness. It's because they are tuned into the present moment with complete devotion. And for those who've never had pets, think of moments when presence took over you, staring at the ocean until time disappeared, holding someone's hand and feeling the weight of connection, being so immersed in music or art that you forget the world outside of it. That's presence. And it's the very thing pets live in every single day. What they teach us is that presence is healing. It interrupts anxiety. It softens grief. And it amplifies joy. Our distractions may be endless, but presence is the antidote. And pets without trying remind us this truth every time they curl at our feet, every time they press their head against our hand, every time they simply exist with us. The code is simple, but it's difficult for us because our minds are wired to wander. Pets bring us back over and over again to what is real. And perhaps the reason they do this so naturally is because love itself lives in presence. You can't truly love if you're not here. And you can't truly be seen or see another if your mind is elsewhere. So here's your third challenge for the week. Create a pet moment this week. Even if you don't have one, put the phone down, silence the noise, and sit with someone or something in complete presence. Let that be the moment that calibrates you. All right, let's talk about part 5, the shadow of love. Every great love carries a shadow. We don't like to think about it, especially in the beginning. But when you welcome a pet into your life, you're also welcoming the day you'll have to say goodbye. That's the unspoken agreement, written into the bond from the very start. It hurts because it matters. The deeper the love, the deeper the loss. And pets show us this truth in a way few other relationships can, because their lives run parallel to ours, but on a shorter arc. We hold them as puppies or kittens. We grow alongside them. And then one day, they grow old before our eyes. And it feels unfair. But in that unfairness, there's a lesson. Love is always worth the risk of loss. For those who've never had a pet, think about the last time you lost something or someone who mattered deeply. A friendship that faded, a loved one who passed, a season of your life that ended. The ache you felt was the proof of how much it meant. The ache is the shadow of love. And pets teach us that grief isn't something you escape. It's something to honor. And when we cry for them, when we ache in the empty spaces that they leave behind, we are really affirming that the love was real. And in a world that constantly distracts us from feeling, pets give us permission to feel it all. There's also something incredibly pure about grieving a pet. It strips away the complications we often feel in human relationships. No unresolved arguments, no lingering resentment, no conditions, just love and the pain of losing it. And maybe that's the greatest gift inside the shadow. Grief is not just evidence of what we've lost, but a reminder of what we're lucky enough to have. To hurt is to have lived. To break is to have loved. I'd like for you to reflect on this. Think about a loss in your own life. A pet, a person, a moment. Ask yourself, if it hurts this much, what does that say about how deeply you loved and how alive you really were in that season? We're now going to talk about the goodbye and the gift. No matter how much we prepare, the goodbye always feels too soon. One day their paws are tapping on the floor, a wagging tail at the door, a soft purr in the quiet of the night, and then suddenly, silence. The house feels heavier. Every corner carries an echo. We realize how much of our daily rhythm was built around the presence of a being who asked for so little, but gave so much. Goodbye is the hardest lesson that pets teach us. It's the lesson we never wanted, but always knew was coming. And yet, in the middle of that heartbreak, there is something strangely sacred. Because in losing them, we realize just how fully they lived in us. Every memory, every quirk, every small routine becomes a treasure we hold tighter than we've ever thought we would. And for those who've never had a pet, think about a goodbye that shaped you. Maybe it was the end of a relationship, or moving away from a childhood home. Or maybe it was watching a chapter of your life close that you weren't ready to let go of. That ache is universal. The tension between wanting to hold on and being asked to release. But here's the hidden gift. Goodbyes carve space for gratitude. They sharpen our awareness of how much something mattered. They remind us that nothing is guaranteed, and because of that, every moment is precious. Pets teach us this in the purest way possible. Their time with us is shorter, but maybe that's the point. Maybe they come to remind us that the length of life matters far less than the love inside of it. The gift inside the goodbye is perspective. You realize how quickly life moves, how fragile it is, how sacred each shared moment really was. And if you let it, that realization doesn't just change how you remember your pet, it changes how you live moving forward. Here's your fourth challenge. Reflect on a goodbye you faced, a pet, a person, a place. And instead of only asking what was taken from you, ask what was given to you through that loss. And let that gift guide how you live today. I'd like to talk with you about now the legacy they leave in us. When a pet is gone, it's tempting to think their story ends. But the truth is, their legacy lives on in us. Every wag, every purr, every playful moment rewrote something inside of us. And those rewrites don't disappear. They become a part of who we are. Think about it. The patience you learned when they tested your boundaries. The tenderness you practiced when they curled up against you, needing your comfort. The laughter they pulled out of you on days you didn't even think you could smile. All of it lingers, reshaping the way you love, the way you forgive, the way you show up in the world. Even if you've never owned a pet, you've had someone or something leave an imprint like this. A person whose influence shows up in the way you speak, the way you care, the way you hold space for others. The legacies we carry aren't always obvious. Sometimes they're tucked into small gestures, invisible but undeniable. That's the quiet miracle of pets. They don't just live with us, they live through us. Long after we're gone, their presence echoes in our choices, our relationships, even in how we treat ourselves. And in this way, they never really leave. They become part of our frequency. The legacy of a pet isn't just that they loved us. It's that they taught us how to love better, to love without condition, to love without an agenda, to love with joy and presence, even when the shadow of goodbye looms in the distance. So here's the question their legacy leaves us with. What will we do with the love they gave us? Will we tuck it away, mourning what we lost? Or will we let it expand us, soften us, make us more alive than we were before? Because maybe that's the greatest tribute we can give them, to carry their lessons forward, to let their short, beautiful lives ripple outward through us, to love more freely, to forgive more quickly, and to live more presently. You know, pets don't just walk beside us for a time. They leave footprints on our hearts that shape who we become. And if you're willing, their legacy is not just a memory. It's a roadmap back to the kind of love and presence the world so desperately needs. As we close today's episode, take a moment to feel the quiet power of companionship, the way a nudge, a paw, or soft gaze can speak without words. Pets teach us something that no advice, no book, no lecture ever could: the value of presence. They show us that love doesn't always need explanation, and joy often hides in the smallest, simplest moments. We live in a world that moves fast, demanding our attention and our energy. And yet, when we pause and truly notice a pet, the wag of a tail, the purr that vibrates against your chest, the slow, unhurried blink of trust. We are reminded that life's richest lessons come not from doing more, but from noticing more. So whether you share your home with a furry friend, a feathery companion, or a scaled confidant, know that these connections are gifts, mirrors of patience, loyalty, and unconditional love. They ask little and teach much. They remind us that care is not just an act, it is a practice, a language, a rhythm that can guide how we move through every relationship in our lives. So, let this be your gentle reminder. Slow down, observe, listen, and love fully. Celebrate the quiet teachers that live among us, the ones who ask for nothing, but give everything. And as you move through your day, carry their lessons with you. The lessons of presence, of devotion, and of a joy hidden in the everyday. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for coming back, and have a great week.